This lesson for the Koine Project Class addresses eschatology, and I will reflect on how advocates of pre-tribulation caused me to take great interest in eschatology in a manner I'd never known. Decades ago, we were taught rapturism, or imminent return of Jesus-ism, and they didn't distinguish rapture from return or resurrection, and had not sorted that out, as later it became quite clearly demarcated. Advocates of the rapture would say that's a separate event. But then as I would study after those who, like a Dr. Graves, Thiessen, and then, of course, Grace Evangelical Society, Dr. Bob Wilkin, I noticed that they were saying we would be, could be close as 30 days prior to a tribulation period. So I started taking great interest in it. And then, of course, as my children were growing up and they marry, you take greater interest in the future, and then grandchildren come along, you take greater interest. I now look at a world that I was told we would not be here when X happens, or if the world ever gets to Y, we'll never be here, or if the world ever gets to Z, we'll never be here. Well, we're all the way through the alphabet, X, Y, Z, and unprecedented things are taking place in our world, and we're seeing events around us. So I've found scholars who teach mid-trib and also post-trib. So I was wanting to look at it from a cautionary view, since I never understood anything about imminence that was associated with a future so far into the future where we are today. So we're going to look at Revelation 3:10, and then we'll talk about 1 Thessalonians 4:17, Matthew 24:29 from a language view. And this is 3:10, and this is where Jesus is speaking to an ecclesia, and he said, because te re sas samen sa seth, second person singular aorist, because you, in singular, because it's to that particular church, you kept, and of course at the time it was written, you keep ton logon, the word, that's the account, all that's involved, the word, well, let me get another marker here, the word taste. Now, those of you that aren't in the Koine Project class, just double your playback speed, get to whatever conclusions you wish. Otherwise, those of you in the class, this is doing our homework, remaining true to our discipline. The word of the mones, that means under and remain. He remained under. The word of the patience, mu of me. So this is speaking of Jesus Christ's particular faithfulness. We know that's unique. No one compares, nothing, no one even can even be spoken of in the same sentence with Jesus. He fulfilled all righteousness, fulfilled the law, accomplished all that God sent him to do. Because you all kept the word of my particular patience, he said, this is Kai, and from ego, I myself. So he says, I myself also say you. Then we have this keep again, te, it's reciprocal now. They keep the word of his patience. Now he will keep te re so. I will also keep you, will keep you. Now this is guard, adhere. He won't forsake or abandon this church, and will keep you, ek, out from tes oros. the hour of the, I'm just wording it out freehanded. We've been freehanding now for, months and months. So hour of the Rosmu of the trial. Then it's taste here of the one of the trial, of course, of the trial. None of these markers are holding up today. Of the trial, meluses. Yeah, it matches the ending of the article there. Of the one of the trial being about erk esthai, to come upon taste the oik umenes of the inhabited world. I'll put that there. Always upon the entire inhabited world. Let me get a marker here. Pay right here perfectly. Pay Ross, that kind of repeated for us. Psi, this is to try out to the ones. This is a present active participle, and it's got kata in it, which is sometimes translated according to, kat oik untas. There we go. Oik untas. It's accusative. It's plural. The ones dwelling, the ones who are dwelling. And since we can do that accordingly, let's just write the ones who are dwelling accordingly. And then we can just write like this. Epi, upon, taste, gaze, upon the earth. That's how they're dwelling, upon the earth. Now, as I'd said, we're using the language, and in principle, we can remember one thing, first and foremost, this principle, that we know it's absolute, immutable, it's absolute fact that if we keep the word of his patience, and that's what we do, and when we guard, let's say, faith alone, meaning faith alone into Christ only, and that's without works to acquire it or works to keep it or achieve it. And you know that to guard that requires persistence, patience, long-suffering. You can just describe the fruit of the Spirit, the love, the joy, the peace. So the Spirit's love, the Spirit's joy, the Spirit's peace is a cause of gladness to speak of only Jesus Christ, his faithfulness, out from which we are justified, his righteousness that's imputed to us the moment we believe. Simple form of action, believe into Jesus Christ, persuaded by the gospel to do so. So that's what it would mean here to keep the word of his patience. It's about his patience, his particular patience only. And then you notice all the reprisals that come upon an ecclesia and even individuals who are out there advocating, guarding, championing this. But this is particularly of interest since I have found researchers and scholars who are working on ecclesiastical eschatology. Since Revelation is a church letter written to 7 churches, they're remaining very focused and noticing what's taking place with churches throughout that time, because we know at the time it was written. So this principle that we keep, he keeps, that's just absolute. Meaning we keep the word of his patience, he'll keep us guarded here. There's nothing there that we wouldn't need anything of better encouragement. And of course, this trial that took place, perhaps, as I've been convinced, it's not the great tribulation, the great one spoken of in that particular text at that time, because the great tribulation for futurists, as the view I'm taking now, that perspective had not occurred. So all we have is something that's timeless. That's an aorist up there. You keep nomic aorist, but mainly you need to know it's timeless. So this principle is timeless. So whether it was in the past, whether it's throughout history, or whether it's in the future, this is of great interest to us. Now to 1 Thessalonians 4:17, we've covered this before, but I'll show you something, someone who is pre-tribulation advocate. Now you can learn a lot from people if you are interested, as you all in this class. We listen. First, we want to understand before we seek to be understood, and I want to hear what they say. Well, they were saying that rapture is in the Latin Vulgate. Well, I've not used that. And someone had questioned, let's just do this, ama, which is an adverb. Well, I had translated it simultaneously, and really made a lot out of it. Well, I don't know how often I had mentioned, but in the Septuagint, in the Latin Vulgate, this is the word simul, as in simultaneously, and it's an adverb. So we put our sign of the adverb. And then, of course, B, of course, then we had seen, which is together with. That's much stronger than just the associative case. It's much stronger. So these are reasons why I would say we should take seriously what we need to learn, what we can learn. And again, as I continue to find myself approaching closer and closer, it was pre-trib advocates, ironically, that really made me have to stop and start looking at the association with tribulation, because you remember the word meta, as in, I'll go there now in number 3, Matthew 24:29, after the tribulation of those days. Well, this word with the genitive case is with, and then of course it's stronger than that, so it's in association with. However, with the accusative case, which is what we have, accusative case, the grammars say that it is after, as in succession. So that was interesting, because we want to respect the language, we want to respect the tireless efforts of those who use it. But what's the principle here? Well, the highest. So I can agree, as Dr. Wilkin pointed out, that was not speaking of the Great Tribulation then, and of course that would make it difficult to make it a case for the future. However, the principle is absolute. We keep the word of his patience because of that. So this would be the cause, and this would be the effect. Now, we couldn't have greater assurance, that is, a particular ecclesia standing there in that precarious position with a tyrannical Roman Empire on one side and maniacal religionists who were wanting to cause their harm, just as in the life of Jesus, his own people and religious leaders from his own people there, that covenant community, turned him over to the Romans, and they had tried to kill him before, took up stones to kill him. I've been told before that they didn't kill him because it was against the law. No, they did everything they could to kill Jesus, and we read in several accounts where he had walked away or passed through them, and they couldn't quite find a way to apprehend him. And then another time they were afraid to do anything since so many people were following him. So they said, hey, here's what we can do, get the Romans to do it. And that's what they did. But so notice here, this is why I say this is of first and foremost importance here. The only purpose of an ecclesia is to keep the word, guard it, adhere to it, the particular patience of Jesus. You know, we hear a lot about the patience of Job, but yet this is so far surpassing, because everything in the Old Covenant was pointing to us to notice this particular patience, this one that Moses wrote of, beginning from the first chapter of the first book in the Bible, all the way till we get to our apocalypse. We have the same thing. So yes, it's very advisable to study and understand what it would be that we would all agree on. We all agree on this, that the cause would be we keep the word of his patience. He keeps us. So that's very important. We can't deny this, but I went and noticed Dr. J.R. Graves said this happens in phases, which was fine. What I respected about his statement was not phases, but that he acknowledged that the simultaneity of this. Thiessen also acknowledged it. Dr. Bob Wilkin acknowledged it, saying he also believed it happened in phases. Now, that's not to banter. It's to just notice that they acknowledged there was something here that an interpreter would have to address. There's something here, and there's nothing there to ignore. And then, of course, what I had to deal with, I was blind spotted here, because in association with might be the case, but it is the word in the way it can be used at other times is influenced by the case of the object. So after tribulation, the tribulation of those days, the tribulation's in accusative case, so that requires it to be understood as after, or like afterward, as we would say. So that's a good lesson. It's just I would rather listen to those. Now, I don't have to advocate one, especially still reeling from the fact that it finally occurred to me that I've been convinced that we'll be here just weeks and days, if you will, prior to a 7-year period of tribulation. And there's others who say mid-trib. I've studied that now for a while, not as much from the language yet. I've noticed that. So you have a blessed day. Enjoy this lesson. I'll get out of the way, let you see the board. Just write out your lesson, though. Those of you that word these things out, do your homework, remain true to your discipline. And then, of course, now that I have 6 grandchildren and a future that I'm praying they have going forward, I can give them transcendent, if you will, meaning it doesn't matter what age or dispensation you're in. This principle is true for the Lord's churches for 2,000 years. We can guarantee this, and it also achieves what he supports and what he encourages us to do, to keep the word of his patience. And you know the struggle today just to guard the gospel against the tendency of the flesh to always add works, front, back, middle, somewhere in there, conditioned upon it. So that's a good lesson. So have a blessed day. Enjoy this lesson.